Our story begins in Paluma, the royal capital. Goblins are hard at work, and it's common in that region for humans to enslave goblins, but Banaza is different. We see a moustachioed old man whipping them and telling them to be quick and stop being soft. The goblins are unloading cargo. One of the goblins asked Banaza if that was the last load. Banaza replied that there could be more later, depending on the negotiations, and thanked him for his work. He also asks the goblin if he and the others couldn't wait while they have a meal. Banaza pulls out the bag of coins and tries to hand it over to the goblin, while some men look on and find it bizarre that he is giving money to a being they categorize as semi-human, calling Banaza a weirdo. The goblin refuses because he calls himself a semi-human. Banaza tells him what the difference is. The goblins would be waiting because of Banaza, and he sees nothing wrong with giving the goblin some money. So Banaza opens the goblin's hand and hands over the bag of coins. Then a girl called Quinn approaches, saying that Banaza won't take no for an answer. She tells the goblin to go ahead and have a meal together. The goblin then accepts, goes over to the other goblins, and tells them to go and thank Banaza. They please him, and Banaza realizes that the other humans are staring at him. Banaza doesn't understand the importance of being a human or semi-human being. For Banaza, everyone can do well, no matter what they are. Quinn agrees with Banaza, but unfortunately not many people in the capital think that way. Suddenly, Banaza begins to glow and simply disappears. Banaza doesn't understand why he was chosen, he just knew that he was in that world now. The invocation of the 198th candidate for Great Hero was a success. Banaza was summoned to a place where several people were around him. An old man welcomed Banaza because he was now in the magic kingdom of Clyrode, calling him a hero candidate. Banaza is completely confused by what the old man said, saying that it was a mistake because she was a mere merchant and had nothing to do with it. The old man says that to help in the protracted battle against the army of darkness, they have summoned potential heroes from other worlds following ancient traditions in the hope that these heroes will fight the demon lord's army for them. The old man went on to say that now they were going to check Banaza's abilities. A little she-wolf in a maid's outfit arrived with a crystal ball, asking Banaza to put his hand in it. In exchange for returning to level 1 after being summoned to that world, candidates receive blessings from the gods, powers that no ordinary person can acquire simply by training. They call it a divine revelation. A panel appears with the attributes of Banaza. Banaza was delighted because the panel had a different language, but he understood it perfectly. The maid was shocked because he had no divine revelation. The statistics were those of a completely ordinary man. Banaza says he had just said that he was a mere merchant. The people who had summoned Banaza couldn't understand how he didn't have a divine revelation, thinking that they had failed miserably. Banaza didn't understand why they were so frustrated, asking that if they could send him back to his world. But at the same time as he was saying this, the people were shocked by a blonde boy who had appeared and had powers worthy of a legendary hero. The guy sees Banaza's attributes and asks if he has been chosen to save the world, and all those people responsible for summoning him along with Banaza surround him saying yes. One of the maids goes to report to the king, while Banaza asks for attention so that he can be sent back to his world. The king is very happy and grateful that the hero has come to save the world, and now appoints the blonde knight as the hero of the world. Banaza is frustrated because no one listens to him. He had never heard of that place. It really was from another world. In any case, Banaza wanted to be sent home. The guards then order him to get into the carriage. He climbs in and thinks about why all this is happening. He remembers the king's servant explaining to him that the portal he was summoned through had already been closed and couldn't be opened again. Banaza didn't know how he was going to get back. The servant tells him that the inability to return to his original world was on the part of that nation. So they would grant Banaza special permission to take up residence in the Delavza forest in the north and live there. However, it was forbidden for Banaza to talk about this mistake with anyone. There is a creature taking the carriage Banaza is in, and Banaza tries to talk to it, but the creature tells him that it has been told not to say anything to Banaza. Banaza, however, said that he wasn't from there. He was from a very faraway place and didn't know anything and needed information, and asked if that creature had a slave pact with the king. The creature doesn't quite know what that was, and Banaza answers him by saying that in the ancient world where he lived, slave pacts between humans and semi-humans were very common. The creature replied that he came from a horrible place and that they really didn't pay him well, but he wasn't a slave. In that country, it didn't matter whether they were human or semi-human. Banaza apologizes for speaking like that and asks for information about the Delevza forest. The creature replies saying that the conversation is over. Then Banaza remembers them talking about a demon lord and that maybe that place wasn't so bad. 20 days later, they arrived. The creature says that the Delevza forest is just around the corner. The creature hands Banaza something the king has sent. Banaza takes it and asks if it's a magic bag. The creature confirms that it should contain enough money and food to keep him going for a while. Rumor had it that the demon lord's army was roaming around, and the creature advised Banaza to get out of there soon if he didn't want to, after which they said goodbye. Banaza looks at the magic bag to find out what's in it. The magic bag worked in the same way as it did in the old world he lived in. He chooses to get the weapons first, so he takes a sword out of his bag. It was only pretty because it was of poor quality. He looks behind him and sees that there are some slimes. They also existed in his old world, but the ones from his world were not offensive, while the ones from this world try to attack him, who quickly tries to defend himself. The sword broke, defeating few slimes, but his level had risen. The system notifies him that he could activate voice guidance, and Banaza decides to activate it. The voice notified him that he had gotten magic spells because he had leveled up. He doesn't understand why several panels appear at once. The voice notified him that he had several spells in his bag, such as the tracking spell, monster attraction, and forced recovery. That was the reason the slimes attacked Banaza, and they had also given him a useless sword, the king who wanted him to die soon. But the voice says that he can remove the spells from the bag, so he asks her to remove them. He found it strange that they were using magic that was so easy to get rid of. He wanted to find a safe place so that he could protect himself. As he was entering the forest, the system notified him that the Delevza forest was contaminated with a high concentration of melicium. Melicium was the generic term for liquid or gaseous substances emitted and dispersed by demons, causing serious damage to humanoid races. The voice tells Banaza that it can purify the forest. Banaza replies that if that is possible, he would have to live in that forest anyway. The voice said that the spell would use a third of Banaza's mana, but he still accepted. And then the forest was finally purified, and the level of Banaza increased greatly. We then see the king's daughter saying how cruel what he did was. And the king doesn't understand. She explains that the would-be hero couldn't go back to his world because of their own mistake, and that sending him to Delevza forest was extremely difficult because there were rumors that the demon lord's army had set up base there. The king told the princess that he was just a useless man who couldn't be a hero. At the same moment, a servant arrived saying that they had found evidence that the most powerful holy magic of all, purification, had just been used. The king thought that the blonde-haired great hero had just subdued the demon lord's army, but that wasn't the case. The servant says it wasn't him because he was in the south and the spell was used in the north. Meanwhile, the scoreboard showed that Banaza's level had reached 367. Banaza doesn't understand how his level went up so much if he didn't kill any monsters after the slimes, and asks the voice to turn off the level up notification because it was confusing him, then asks how much mana he has left, but his mana is fully restored in a few seconds, but he still felt that his magical ability wasn't great. He didn't know if his magic had completely purified the forest, and he had no way of looking for information because he was forbidden to live in the city. The voice told Banaza that the magic change of appearance was recommended, and asked if he would like to use the spell. Banaza thinks that if they didn't recognize him, he could go to the city. The voice asks him to choose his gender on the panel until he chooses the female gender. But he sees that it doesn't work out and asks to change to the male gender. Now he could enter the city. The panel recommends him the magic of teleportation, so he could go instantly to the royal capital, and he decides to go that way. Then he arrives in the city. Banaza is impressed because in his world only the most powerful wizards could use the teleportation spell. He thought it was very different there, but in fact he was very strong, but he didn't know it yet. Until he realizes that he could teleport to his old world, he tries, but is unsuccessful. After all, it was too much to ask. In any case, he needed to earn money to live in that world, so he went to look for a guild. Even if he found a merchant's guild, it would be difficult to register without knowing anyone there. He's been thinking that it might be good if he found an adventurer's guild where he could do monster hunting or cargo-carrying missions. And then the system notifies him that he should move on to find the adventurer's guild in the city of Castle Clyrode. He arrives at the guild, and the receptionist tells him that they rank adventurers based on their achievements, and as the rank increases, the adventurer can earn better rewards and accept more difficult missions. The guilds of that world functioned exactly like the old world he lived in, so he decides to register. The girl asks his name, and he says his name is Fleo. He only remembered the dog's name at the time and chose that one, and the receptionist registered him. Now Banaza wanted to earn some quick cash, but with the rank he had, he couldn't get any big rewards. Banaza sees a girl asking for an escort to the Delavza forest. No one wants to go there as the rumor about the Demon King's army being there was swirling around the city. Banaza decides to go to her, saying that he can take her there. She says that she doesn't have much money to offer, and he says that it's no problem and that he's already been there and can take her with teleportation. Everyone around him thinks he's lying because there's no way he could use that. Banaza hears the people whispering and realizes that this spell is not for beginners. When suddenly Ballyrosa came to the girl's defense because she thought he was lying and would do her harm. Some of the girls begin to question Ballyrosa. Banaza didn't want to be suspicious and tried to ask the girls to go with him to the girl's house. Then they go to an alley so he can show off his skills. Then he uses the teleport to the Delavza forest. The girls are shocked. There's no doubt he wasn't lying. They thought he was a high-level wizard, but he says he's just a novice adventurer who can use a bit of magic. Delarosa apologizes to him for being rude, and the other girls do too. The little girl who had asked for an escort found it strange that Melicium from the forest had disappeared. She didn't even feel the presence of magical beasts. Just as Banaza was about to explain himself, the system told him to be careful because it was dangerous to tell a demon that he had used purification. Ballyrosa takes out her sword to attack the girl when she learns that she is a demon, and so do the other girls. Ballyrosa asks the little girl to show her true form, and Banaza doesn't understand. Ballyrosa explains that the guild has issued a notice that a suspicious young woman recently requested assistance to go to Delavza forest. The little girl really was a demon and shows her true form. The little girl was Fenris, Fenguril's younger sister from the Four Hells. They are all frightened. Fenris says she went to observe the enemy, but they would all die. She uses a spell that weakens all the girls. Fenris notices that Banaza hasn't been affected by the Melicium. She tries to attack Ballyrosa, but Banaza won't let her, dodging and taking Ballyrosa with him. Banaza asks the teleporter to take the four girls to the city, and it works. Banaza may not have been the chosen one, but he refused to be killed before doing anything in that world and decided to test all the spells on Fenris.